Very early in my work at the North American Mission Board, I relied heavily on research on church planting wives undertaken by Shari Thomas. In the early 2000s, training spouses for church planting was a foreign concept for denominations and networks, yet her work has provided very helpful insight into the needs of planting wives. This research for planting wives have shaped my understanding, as well as deeply impacted our strategy to serve and to lead and care for wives. This material will be insightful for both planters and their spouses. Guys, it will help you have insight from the hundreds of other planting wives who share your wife's journey. And ladies, as you hear these women's perspective and challenges, you may not feel so alone and isolated. The perspective of this research identifies critical causes of either stress or, conversely, satisfaction for planting wives. In other words, if this condition is robustly in place, it is helpful and life-giving. If it is not in place, it is harmful. I want to share the top 4 areas planting wives considered as being either sources for her personal good and satisfaction or places of stress and difficulty. The very first and most important critical source for stress or satisfaction is the planter himself. The planter has been rated as the most critical component of either stress or satisfaction for planting wife. The lack of involvement, understanding, and connectivity of the planter increases the isolation for the spouse, while also placing added pressure on their marriage. When these features are consistently present, she is more likely to be healthy and to be thriving in her role. If her husband doesn't grasp the demands of church planting for his wife, he might expect a level of involvement in ministry that is unwise or not suited for her. He may be unaware of the emotional strain he adds by sharing details over issues that she has no power or control to change. Even during many demands, husbands need to be aware and highly intentional when it comes to his connection and understanding with his wife and her perspective and the needs of her soul. Neglecting his calling to robustly love and shepherd her heart won't end well. The second critical support for the planting wife is her own support system. In the research, spouses who did not report a presence of a support system apart from their husbands indicated stress and isolation and great dissatisfaction. The type of support that planting spouse needed is not just time spent with others. The support needed comes from another woman in the same field, or from the rare person who knows how to listen and ask appropriate questions without judgment or quick fixes. Unfortunately, often women's groups can even be more isolating for the planter's wife, as they only reinforce how different her life is from others. Additionally, it's common when planting wives connect with pastors' wives in traditional contexts, they fail to connect because their ministry experiences have little in common, and they often leave feeling misunderstood. In other words, planting wives need other planting wives. This community is powerful and life-giving. If the women share the same physical contact, they even can connect around a shared mission field, which is always a plus. Wives, we understand the tremendous demand in your lives. Yet I will say, prioritizing community with your planting sisters is truly an imperative. Guys, you can lend a hand by doing all that you can to help her find space to connect. Ladies, do all that you can to find that support system. It's not just a luxury, it's deeply critical to your health and well-being. The third critical source for a planting wife is her reliance on Christ. A spouse's understanding and ability to rely on Christ's finished work on the cross in her everyday life is essential for the health of her soul. It is life-giving and it is strengthening for her to walk in the power of his love and his presence. When this is missing in her spiritual journey, she really does become spiritually vulnerable. Without understanding that the success or failure of the church depends on God's sovereignty and grace, Spouses often live out of performance-based mentality. Living and working out of a performance-based mentality is dangerous ground. It may cause a planning spouse to push herself beyond physical and emotional limitations. Plus, she may lack self-care for herself and for her body and for her soul, and also be unable to say no. Those who possess a deep understanding of their adoption in Christ and have complete acceptance before the Father experience greater joy and delight in church planning. And the converse is also true. When she fails to rely and draw from her intimacy with Christ, then she will be working from an emptiness and not a fullness with Him, which can lead to spiritual and emotional burnout. The last concept is that church planning is filled with boundary ambiguity for the planting wife. Church planning, by its very nature, means living with a lack of emotional and physical and spiritual clarity. Ambiguous means that things are unclear or inexact. Church planning is filled with uncertainty. It means facing constant shifting locations, roles, duties, or people. For example, the lack of physical space combined with constant change of facilities is burdensome. The lack of personal means which she must absorb tasks and assignments feel like it's going beyond her calling or equipment. She has a tremendous workload. It's not just a simple 9-by-5 day. For the wife, this uncertainty is magnified as it impacts all areas of her life, which can create discomfort, stress, and even fear. Women report inordinate challenge with her ambiguous role as the planning spouse. She is a leader, a hostess, a wife, a mother, maybe runs all the social media or the tech team. The very nature of church planting means lines are very blurry for her. We need to understand her unique pressures represented in these 4 areas. They will be very helpful in church planning. Guys, please don't avoid engaging honest and ongoing conversations about these topics. It will demonstrate your love for her and your awareness of her reality. This could no doubt create greater health and understanding as you labor side by side in ministry.